Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here, guys. In today's video I want to share my thoughts on a fragrance from Swiss Arabian that few years ago got very popular on YouTube. The fragrance is called SEHR AL SHEILA. I'm not really sure how the collection is called, but I know there are like 3 fragrances and I've tried 2 of them. You have SEHR AL SHEILA, you have a fragrance called Areej al Sheila, and you also have a fragrance called Areej al Sheila. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Areej al Sheila, I think it's discontinued. But yes, I will share my thoughts on this fragrance. I will let you know how it smells like to me, how it develops, how it performs, if I find it similar to other fragrances. I will also compare it to Santal Royale from Guerlain, because I have the fragrance in my collection, and I know like years ago when I used to watch YouTube videos, way before I started my YouTube channel, some people compared these 2 fragrances, and I want to let you know if they are similar or not. So yes, you guys, without further ado, let's begin. Of course, if you have tried this fragrance, you know by now that I would love to hear your thoughts on the fragrance. If you have tried it, doesn't matter if you love it, if you hate it, please share your feedback on the fragrance. This way, everyone who's watching this video interested in purchasing this fragrance could really use your feedback as well. Like I've said, doesn't matter if you love it or you hate it, keep it respectful. Just keep it respectful, you guys, and share your thoughts on the fragrance in the comment section. So yes, let's just start, you guys. I was so curious to try this fragrance for the longest time. I remember years ago, before the fragrance got pretty popular, by the way, you can find this fragrance on Notino. But I remember years ago they used to have amazing prices for this fragrance. I purchased this fragrance, not this fragrance, sorry. I purchased this fragrance for around $40, $45, $46, $50, something like this. They used to have amazing sales. But yes, what I wanted to say, you guys, is that for the longest time I didn't want to blind buy this fragrance for 2 reasons. First of all, since people compared it to this fragrance from Guerlain, Santal Royale, I was like, since I have 125 ml, yeah, 125 ml of this fragrance, I was like, I don't want to have 2 fragrances that smell alike. And I was like, you know what, let me just test it. By the way, thank you so much to the person who sent me this decant. And also, guys, after I purchased this fragrance, I don't know why I grabbed the bottle so weird today. Areej al Sheila from Swiss Arabian, this fragrance. After I have purchased this fragrance, I was like, the notes kind of look similar. So I was like, again, I didn't want to have 2 fragrances that smell alike, you know, especially in this scent family. But yeah, safe to say it doesn't smell like those 2 at all. Now, let's start, you guys. This fragrance, I will actually apply it on my skin because even though in many videos of mine I try fragrances on paper, especially when I talk about multiple fragrances in one video, but to truly get to experience this fragrance to its fullest potential, this fragrance as well as all the other fragrances, you should test the fragrance on your skin, because on your skin, in contact with the warmth of your skin, the fragrance develops in a very different way than to how it develops on paper. You get to perceive those subtle texture nuances, you know, that even though, like I've mentioned, they are on the subtle side, but at the end they do make a difference. So yes, let me spray this fragrance and let me talk about this fragrance, because I was so excited to share my thoughts finally about it, because I received so many questions about this fragrance, you guys. Now, let me just say, this fragrance opens up with a hefty dose of oud and rose, a slightly dewy green and herbal patchouli, a hint of something spicy. I'm guessing nutmeg or something like this, because it does have a little bit of sweetness, but also a slight sharpness to it. It almost feels a little bit like vibrant, you know, something like slightly peppery, nutmeg-like. But this opening only lasts for a few seconds, because after that the fragrance, let's just say, morphs into a completely different fragrance to me. I find it very funny, but sometimes when I smell this fragrance, to me, like in my mind, it's almost like in the opening all the notes are having a fight, you know, because you have a lot of everything, but give it 1 minute, like maximum 1.5 minutes, and the fragrance morphs into something completely different, and the rose wins. This is a rose forward fragrance, like this is made all around rose, all around. This is all about rose, you guys. I love how this fragrance smells like. I love how this fragrance smells like. The rose is definitely the star of the show. Of course, you have the oud. The oud sits right behind it, but the rose is definitely the star of the show to me. So from the opening, I told you, in the opening you have the rose that feels very deep and dark and mysterious. It's definitely your red rose. Doesn't have much sweetness in the opening, honestly. Then you have your oud. The oud accord in the opening feels very noticeable. Now, oud in fragrances, you guys, comes in a variety of, not formats, of scent profiles. It comes into such a wide variety of scent profiles. Doesn't matter if it's natural oud, doesn't matter if it's an oud accord, meaning it's created in the lab. Not all oud forward fragrances smell alike. Some are more wearable than others, from what I have tried myself, you guys. You have an oud accord, for instance, you have, you know how certain fragrances from Montal and Mancera, a lot of people say that, oh, they smell medicinal, they smell very medicinal, like cleaning products, this and that and the third. You do have certain oud accords that can lean a little bit more medicinal. They can smell like a dentist office, like a cleaning product in a sense. So like I've mentioned, you have your medicinal oud on one hand, then you have your typical Hindi style of oud. Hindi oud in general is not the most easy to digest, it's not the most easy to tolerate oud in fragrances. It's an oud that feels very raw, very unapologetic. Hold on, because I have a hair strand here that I can see it with the side of my eye and it's annoying me. Yes, it's not the most easy to digest oud. It feels more raw, more unapologetic, definitely slightly more pungent, slightly more fermented. It also has a specific acidity to it. It feels more sour in a sense, almost a little bit fermented. If you've tried fragrances like Mohallat El Shams, if you've tried fragrances like Bin Sheikh from Ahmed El Maghribi, you know that style of oud. That's that style of oud, you know, the oud there I'm talking about. This kind of oud, to me, it's the type of oud that either you just love it, you know, like you have a taste, naturally you have a taste for this kind of oud. Maybe you've grown in the region and you're familiar, or maybe you develop a taste for this kind of ouds the more you test oud forward fragrances, but this is definitely not the first oud I would recommend you to start with. Next, you have oud, either your Cambodi oud or oud done in a similar style to the Cambodi oud. Again, this is from what I have tried myself, you guys. And keep in mind, I am no perfumer, I am no fragrance teacher, I'm not, okay, like I don't have any degree in perfumery. This is just from what I have explored myself. So, Cambodi oud, from what I have noticed, again, doesn't matter if it's like an accord or if it's real oud, to me, it translates in a fragrance, it gives a very rich, woody effect to the fragrance. It can feel a little bit wet in a sense, a little bit damp, or it can feel dry, but not rough dry type of woody accord, but it feels very flavored in a sense, you know, it's a very multifaceted and complex accord in a sense, and it does have a slight barnyard funk to it. Now, yes, of course, the level of barnyard or the level of funk in oud forward fragrances, it can depend. Keep in mind, some people have a lower tolerance for oud, so what I might feel like for me translates to a slight barnyard funk. For some it might be like full-on shitty oud, you know. So again, this is why test oud forward fragrances. Yeah, then that's your Cambodi style of oud. Then you can also have certain oud accords or natural oud that can legit smell like you are burning an oud chip, you know, like you're burning some bahor and you use that bahor to scent your clothes. And when I say this, I'm thinking in my mind of Eba Gold from Junaid Perfumes. That is a beautiful representation of that type of oud accord. Yeah, and I'm sure there are many other varieties, you know, some have more funk, some have less funk, some have a slight greener nuance, some have a more acidic, sour, fermented, pungent facet to them. Yeah. Now, the oud accord used here, you guys, to my nose, it's that type of oud that has no barnyard funk to it. It's not neither your Hindi style of oud nor your medicinal style of oud. To me, the oud used here, I'm not really sure if it's like a real oud or it's not real oud, but like I've mentioned, it just adds a beautiful, rich, decadent, woody facet to the fragrance that feels slightly dewy in the opening, like imagine the smell of a wet piece of wood, like a forest wood, you know, like wet and very scented in a sense, you know. This is how the oud in the opening here translates as, of course, to my nose. Now, like I've mentioned, the oud here doesn't have any funk, you guys. It's not a challenging oud by any means. This is actually a very this is a very beginner friendly rose oud combo. Like if you were thinking to start out to venture Like if you are thinking to venture into the world of rosewood fragrances, you love the smell of rose and you would like to test something with oud, but an oud that's wearable, start with this fragrance. I don't think you will be disappointed. So let me tell you how this fragrance finally smells like. I wanted to touch on the oud accord because I know I get lots of questions about different types of oud, especially when I mentioned that the fragrance has oud. Few people, like multiple people, especially as the video, let's just say, sits on YouTube for a while, I always get questions: does it have a funk? How does the oud smell? Is the oud noticeable? Is the oud challenging? You know, so I wanted to mention everything I wanted to say about the oud, and now let me tell you how this fragrance smells like to me. So I told you, give the fragrance 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, and all those notes you had in the opening, they morph into something different. The rose shines the most to me, you guys, and this is a rose forward fragrance. And to me, in the opening, this goes into a deep, dark, velvety, fleshy rose. Think those roses that have that color like a deep red wine kind of color, you know. Now imagine that kind of roses, but very fleshy, almost a little bit dewy, but it's a very deep and dark and mysterious and robust rose accord. The rose accord used here definitely feels very rich, very thick, very full-bodied, and I can say that it has a lot of sweetness in the opening because I don't pick up that much sweetness, but actually as the fragrance starts to develop, you will get sweetness. But I will mention this aspect when I get to it. But yeah, like I've said, this is all about rose through and through. And like I've said, you have that full-bodied rose accord that imagine like you're dipping your face into dozens of rose petals, but that kind of rose that I told you. And it's almost like they're so velvety, like they tickle your skin, but at the same time you get all that scent, you know, and they feel very concentrated and scented. This is how it smells like to me. And imagine this rose accord sits on the base of oud. The oud is the type of wood that I've described to you, that rich, deep, heavy, oudy type of wood without any funk to it, you guys. Don't worry, this doesn't smell fickle by any means. Now, something that I've noticed about this fragrance, even though you have clearly a very pronounced oud accord in the background, but the oud accord here acts as an anchor to the rose accord, at least to my nose. It gives a lot of depth, it gives a lot of support to the rose accord, but it never gets to overshine it, it never gets to overpower it, and it never really steals from that richness of the rose accord, you know, it never steals from that velvety, full-bodied effect that the rose accord has here. To me, it acts more in a sense that it gives depth and darkness to the fragrance, but it doesn't act that much texture-wise. The texture of this fragrance, like I've mentioned, it feels very round and full-bodied and dense and thick and rich, you know. As I'm smelling this fragrance, among the rose and the oud, I do get slight patchouli-like facets, but it's almost like from time to time the patchouli here pulls a little bit chocolatey. I don't know why. Like a subtle chocolatey-like sweetness in the background. Maybe it's just in my mind, I don't know, you guys. But this is the stage. But then as the fragrance develops even more on my skin, let's just say 30-35 minutes in, it goes to a stage where the rose accord, it still manages to feel very dense, very rich, very full-bodied, but now it's almost like it starts to lose a little bit of that mysterious energy that it has, and it goes a little bit warmer, and it also goes very jammy, you guys. And to me, this stage is the sweetest stage of all the stages in this fragrance. I feel like in this third stage, let's call it, because of the added vanilla here that complements very well the rose accord, and not only that it adds lots of sweetness, but it also helps to create a very rounded fragrance in a sense. There are no rough edges when it comes to this fragrance. The rose legit feels, you guys, it feels jammy. It almost feels like a rose jam in a sense, you know. But again, very warm, very dense. It loses a little bit of that depth factor that it had in the opening. It loses a little bit of the darkness. And I can say that it really goes brighter, like brighter, but it goes definitely much warmer and much sweeter. To me, it moves from a very mysterious, bewitching, enchanting, sensual territory. It moves into the seductive, playful, slightly, I don't want to say flirty, because this fragrance to me feels classic, but yeah, I feel like slightly more sensual and playful in a sense, you know, from the mysterious territory that it was in the opening. Yeah. in this stage is the sweetest, is the warmest, is the densest, is the richest. You can legit smell the warmth of the fragrance and the slight jammy factor behind, you guys. I love how this fragrance smells. Like, it also feels very romantic, you guys. This for a date night, for even like going to a very fancy restaurant, or when you are just feeling like very feminine, like, but more like not that like dainty, you know, bubbly kind of feminine, a very like mysterious kind of feminine, you know. It's a beautiful fragrance, you guys, and I'm so happy that I got a chance to test it. Definitely went on my wish list, even though it's not the kind of fragrance that, let's just say, reinvents the wheel by any means, you know, but it manages to create a beautiful classic. If you are looking for a classic rose oud forward fragrance that's not challenging, yet the oud is present and the rose is done in a very beautiful way, and it smells definitely very expensive, very, I don't want to say opulent and royal, because it doesn't go into that territory, but it smells refined, you guys. It smells refined, it smells sophisticated, it smells very mysterious, very feminine, very seductive in a sense, you know. Yeah, and then in the dry down, you guys, it does like a full circle. Like, it does a full circle back to how it smelled in the opening, because in the dry down I was not expecting this, but the fragrance goes back to its more slightly earthy, slightly more grounding territory that it was in the opening. So basically now, to me, the fragrance, the rose accord loses some of the warmth, it goes definitely much colder, loses some of the richness that it had. I start to detect slight powdery facets here. I also start to detect a slight grounding aura to the fragrance. Maybe it comes from the iris here, maybe it comes from the patchouli, but you do detect overall a more earthy, grounding take on the fragrance. And to me, in this stage, it smells classic, it smells timeless, it smells very mysterious, you know, back to mysterious. Yeah, and the oud accord starts to shine more and more as well in the dry down. It's very interesting because this fragrance, to me, it's like a dance between the rose and the oud and all the other nuances, you know, like they come and they go, but it's always a very balanced dance. I feel like none shine in a way that feels forced or unauthentic. This fragrance has a very beautiful energy about it. I don't know how to describe it. I love roses in fragrances. Like, rose is my favorite note, so be mindful of that, okay? Like, I might be biased a little bit when I say how much I love this fragrance, because I love rose. I cannot find enough words to tell you how beautiful I find rose accords in fragrances, and how diverse they can be, and how they can embody different flavors and different energies. And I love the kind of energy that the rose carries in fragrances, especially your deeper, darker roses. I feel like they bring such a voluptuous energy to the fragrance. I don't know. I love this fragrance. Yes, I love this fragrance. Now, you guys, so I've mentioned how it smells like to me. Now let me get to the comparison part a little bit. The performance, I will add it on the screen if I haven't edited by now. Quickly, seasons all year round. Legit all year round, you guys. This shines in the heat, this shines in cold weather. For instance, where is it? This to me shines in cold weather and cold weather only. I feel like in the heat, to me, those green nuances that this one has go a little bit more herbal, and I'm not really the biggest fan of green facets in fragrance naturally. So of course I prefer it more when the rose shines and when it's sweeter. But this one, on the other hand, because the green facets, you get them a little bit in the opening and a little bit in the dry down. To me, this is the kind of fragrance that works beautiful all year round. Of course, now bear in mind, where I live, it's spring at the moment. I mean, is it really spring? At least it's trying to be spring. I mean, like, yeah, the weather is around 10 degrees perhaps, you know, like sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it rains, sometimes it's very cold. Like, yeah, the weather is very undecisive. So I got to test this fragrance during different weather conditions, let's just say, but it smells beautiful in all, I feel like. Yeah, to me, I would wear this one all year round, daytime, nighttime. This fragrance manages to capture this classic timeless elegance with this mysterious Middle Eastern feel. This definitely leans very Middle Eastern, and with this voluptuous, feminine, sensual energy that I love about it. And I feel like it's It's amazing, and it's done in such a beautiful way, in such a elevated way to me. Now, yeah, versatility, to me it's ultra versatile. If you have a taste for rose, of course you could do less sprays, you could do more sprays. I don't feel like this is the kind of fragrance that I would layer. I don't know why, but when it comes to rose forward fragrances, I'm not really the biggest fan to layer them, in a sense. I mean, I do have certain fragrances with rose that I layer, but like my rose, like the fragrances in which the rose truly shines, is like the star of the show, I rarely layer those fragrances. So I don't know, I wouldn't layer this fragrance myself personally. But if you're curious, why not? You could layer this one with an oud oil, for instance, to amplify the oud. Don't ask me for good oud oil recommendations, because I don't know. I'm searching as well. So let me move to the comparison part, and let me start with the fragrance that this gets the most, or this used to get, because I don't know if now it gets. This used to get the most comparisons with, and this is from Guerlain. This is Santal Royale. Now, you guys, to me, right from the start, they are in different dimensions, these two fragrances. They have different frequencies. To me, this one, SEHR Al Sheila, like I've mentioned, embodies a woman that's mysterious, that's sensual, that's feminine, that's very seductive in a sense. A woman in her, definitely her feminine energy. This gives me elegance, it feels classy, it feels very refined, it feels timeless, even though it smells expensive, but it smells expensive in a refined way. And I already described you how this fragrance smells like, so I'm not gonna go back to how it smells like. Whereas this fragrance from Guerlain, to me, this gives me a different vibe. This to me smells opulent, this to me smells royal, this to me smells expensive, in the sense that it smells definitely very opulent. This is very loud, this is a very statement-like fragrance, you know. This is an attention-grabbing fragrance. This fragrance projects, this fragrance fills up rooms, you know. This fragrance, this one from Swiss Arabian, I feel like it feels a little bit more intimate, not in a sense that it doesn't project or anything like this, but in a sense that it has something that makes it feel very personal, you know. Whereas this one, this is the kind of fragrance that you wear when you want people to know that you're wearing a very loud fragrance, you know, like you're wearing a very extroverted and sophisticated and a very statement fragrance for sure. Now, this is the first difference that I noticed, like energy-wise, you know. I don't know if you believe in these kind of things, but I do believe in the energy that a fragrance gives me, you know. Because like I've said, I don't choose fragrances based on the fragrance police and based on whatever the rules tell you should. I choose fragrances based on the mood that I'm in, or the energy that I have, or that I would like to have. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit down and I want a fragrance that's very uplifting, or maybe I'm feeling very, like, I don't know, like too much in my mind and I want to feel more feminine and a bit more sensual perhaps. Then I choose a fragrance like that. Next differences that I have noticed is the way these two fragrances are constructed. This is constructed around a rose accord, and the rose accord shines the most, and then you have the oud right behind it. It's present enough, but it never steals the attention from the rose. Whereas here, this fragrance, let's just say, it's like various notes and accords share the spotlight, in a sense. You have here a very pronounced cinnamon feel. The rose here definitely feels more spicy. I feel like if here you have your definitely like deep wine red type of red rose, here you have a rose that feels more pink in a sense, but not pink in a sense that it feels girly, pink in a sense that it feels very concentrated, like Rose Absolute, something like this. But the rose is very spiced because of the cinnamon, so you also get this slight sweet and spicy facet. I also detect peach here that adds a very interesting twist, honestly. And I feel like the peach, as I had the fragrance and as I got to test it more and more, shines even more to me. So you have all these that I've said. I also detect a smoky aura from the fragrance, not smoke in a sense of you're burning an oud chip or like you're burning bahor. Smoke in a sense that it feels slightly ashy, like cigar smoke. I don't mind it, honestly. I feel like it adds a beautiful twist to the fragrance. But yeah, no, I don't know if everyone gets this vibe from this fragrance, but I do detect it. You also get an oud accord. The oud accord, again, here it doesn't feel barnyard. You also get a very like warming up and slightly dusty kind of sandalwood. This fragrance has a lot of things going on, you guys, a lot of things going on. So scent wise, besides the fact that both share a rose accord. I feel like they go in their different directions after, and I would reach for these fragrances in very different scenarios. This one I would reach for it when I want to feel very feminine, very sensual, maybe a little bit more mysterious, you know, that kind of energy. Whereas with this fragrance, I would reach for it when I want to feel bold, when I want to feel very extroverted and confident and powerful, you know. I would reach for these fragrances in very different scenarios. Let me tell you how it compares to Areej al Sheila. I had to go and grab some paper. I have to say these fragrances both share a similar rose accord, but again, both of them have their differences. Let's see. Yeah, similar rose accord in a sense that this rose accord feels pretty jammy as well, especially in the heart. But this one feels jammy in the heart as well. But this feels more spicy, more dewy in a sense, slightly more green. This has a suede accord, suede or leather. Definitely a nude accord as well, but the overall fragrance, this feels a tad sharper in the opening because of the spices. I don't mind the spices, I love spices in fragrances. Yeah, almost a little bit fermented in a sense. It's very interesting. I don't remember getting this fermented aspect years ago when I purchased this fragrance. I do notice certain similarities in a sense that in the heart both of these fragrances have sweetness, but I feel like besides that, this is pretty much everything that's similar to these two fragrances. Areej al Sheila goes into a different direction to my nose. Yeah, very different direction. I'm not gonna sit now and compare like in depth how they smell like, because I would spend too much time, but they go in different directions. So if you had Areej al Sheila, just so you know, similar rose accord in the heart, but after that different vibes. And also this feels more mature. This feels more mature, less sensual in a sense, very mysterious as well, very like, who's that woman there, you know, like she's looking so mysterious. It has that type of energy as well, but they go in different directions. Yeah, next, let me tell you two fragrances, or okay, you know what, I'm not going to bring that decant now because I forgot to bring it, but let me tell you three fragrances that this one could be somehow related to, that I have tried myself. I have here La Fille de Berlin from Serge Lutens. This fragrance, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, this fragrance, and then on the other hand, this fragrance from Malone, the Velvet Rose and Oud. This is the rich extract, and this smells so beautiful as well. Oh yeah, I love rose forward fragrances, you guys, like, yeah. These, I feel like, honestly, if I were to put SEHR AL SHEILA in a fragrance family, a little bit of this with a little bit of this and with a little bit of the simple Velvet Rose and Oud from Malone, but this one is actually more rich and more dense and more opaque, where the other one has a slight transparency to it in a sense, you know. It doesn't feel as compact and opaque and dense and full and rich. Yeah, you guys, I would put the fragrance from Swiss Arabian with these two fragrances simply because this one from Serge Lutens, this is a rose forward fragrance. It's a beautifully done rose accord. The rose feels honeyed. It feels carnal, you guys. This fragrance feels very carnal and very passionate and bewitching as well. And the rose here, I feel like the rose here, it's done in a similar way to the rose that feels very velvety in this one from Swiss Arabian. Deep, dark, velvety, again, this kind of red roses, you know. But this one has an added, almost like a creamy dark chocolatey facet to the fragrance. So the overall fragrance, let's just say, it doesn't go through such a development, and the oud doesn't shine as much here as it shines in SEHR AL SHEILA. Yeah, now I'm smelling the dry down of the fragrance, and it's lost that jammy quality. It goes a little bit more breezy, but not airy in a sense that it's bright, slightly breezy, but it still manages to go actually darker, you know. It turns back to how it smelled in the opening. I get certain patchouli hints, but not in a sense that it adds herbal green facets, but in a sense that it adds lots of earthiness to the fragrance. Oh, beautiful. So this is pretty much everything I wanted to say about the fragrance. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think about the fragrance. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it stood up to the hype it got a few years ago? Do you think it's overhyped? I feel like, for me, as a rose lover, I feel like it was worth the hype, honestly. I feel like it was definitely worth the hype, and considering that rose is my favorite note, I definitely see how this fragrance would fit into my fragrance collection easily. But honestly, I'm waiting for a good deal on it on Notino, because I know Notino usually does it almost like 40% off. I mean, this one I purchased it for 40% off. So yeah, this is everything I wanted to say. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram. Here is my handle. As always, you guys, if you want to tell me anything, please put it in the comment section. I always appreciate your comments, your words of encouragement. Oh my god, they mean so much to me. Thank you so much, you guys. I swear, like, sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit discouraged and when I have my days, like, I read some of your guys' comments, and they bring me so much. They bring me such a beautiful feeling, like they warm my heart. And I almost dropped this fragrance. Yeah, they legit warm my heart. So thank you so much for all your beautiful comments. I will see you in my next video, but until then, thank you so much for watching, and I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye, guys.